Heads are better than one, but what about cylinders? Parallel twins are having an incredible resurgence in motorcycling lately. The parallel twin is a natural evolution for what's been going on over 100 years in motorcycling, and it may be the final form of motorcycling engine. Think of it like the crab. Everything evolves to the crab eventually, according to biologists, and perhaps motorcycling engines are going to continue evolving into the humble parallel twin. They were the standard for motorcycling for a long time until Honda released the CB750 back in 1969 and made 4-cylinder engines the cream of the crop. And for a long time, they were lackluster placeholder engines that manufacturers typically put in their smaller displacement bikes to get people to make their way into the bigger 3, 4, and even 6-cylinder motorcycles that they offered. Buzzing little 2-cylinder motors that sound like a lawnmower weren't really exactly the pinnacle of performance for many riders and were often seen as stepping stone motorcycles. Think of the Rebel 250, the Ninja 250, the Ninja 650, and those sorts of old school parallel twins from yesteryear. But now, things are different. With parallel twins receiving a ton of R&D, they've found their way into sport bikes, adventure bikes, touring bikes, and everything else in between. They seem to provide the optimal blend of everything: power, torque, the overall power characteristics, simplicity, and cost. And thanks to the widely adopted 270-degree crank, they've even got a little bit of nice character to them as well. So do all these benefits really make the parallel twin the best engine configuration for a motorcycle in 2024, or should you still try to find something with the grumbly character of a V-twin or even an inline 4? Let's jump into it in today's video. Parallel twins, with their cylinders configured side by side, offer riders simplicity and ease of maintenance, and they offer manufacturers the ability to develop motorcycles at a very low cost. They're compact, easy to manufacture, and fit into a wide variety of applications. It makes them versatile for street, touring, off-road, or even adventure riding. They've become the new one-size-fits-all motorcycle engine configuration that manufacturers can cross-platform across several motorcycles. Yamaha was arguably the front-runner and forward thinker in this category when they released the then-new MT-07 back in 2013 as the little brother to the FZ-09 back in the day. It offered the 270-degree parallel twin, the beloved 689cc cross-plane twin, making 75 horsepower and 50 foot-pounds of torque. Many reviewers at the time actually preferred the MT-07 over the then FZ-09, which was a little rowdy and bizarre handling, even though it loved to do wheelies. The success of the 689cc parallel twin cannot be overstated from Yamaha, as it found its way from the MT-07 to the R7 and the venerable and much-loved Tenere 700 platforms as well. And in Europe, you also get the Tracer 7, which is the sports touring version of the Yamaha MT-07. This configuration was in fact so successful that many manufacturers started copying Yamaha's homework, and throughout the late 2010s, we started seeing parallel twins go into everything. Suzuki now has their own parallel twin that they use in the GSX 8S, 8R, and V-Strom 800 models. Aprilia has it in the RS 660 and Tuono 660 platforms, and they've even made a pint-sized version of that engine, albeit a little bit different, in the RS 457, which we have as a giveaway bike over on yammynoob.co. Click that link down below and don't miss it. Honda's also making a version of their parallel twin engine in the Hornet and Transalp platform, and as I said, you cannot escape this parallel twin craze. But really, one of the things that began the parallel twin revolution was that 270-degree firing order, which gives the parallel twin a much better character than the traditional 180-degree crank found in things like the Ninja 400 and the Ninja 650. And if you don't believe me, just listen to them side by side and you'll see what I mean. This configuration produces a power pulse every 270-degree rotations of the crank, resulting in a smooth and linear power delivery, a reduction in vibration, and produces a distinct rumbly exhaust note that has lots of charm and character. Not only is this found in sporty configurations, but Royal Enfield has a parallel twin with a 270 crank in their INT 650 platform, and you can also find them in the Triumph Bonneville range of motorcycling. It truly is everywhere right now. Parallel twins are lauded for their strong mid to low range torque, making them super ideal for street applications where you get nice grunt off the line and smooth predictable power throughout the rev range. With half as many moving parts as an inline-4 engine and fewer hydrocarbons being produced as a result of less surface area on the actual cylinder walls themselves, parallel twins are easier for manufacturers to make and to meet emission standards in today's world. It's why you see manufacturers making bigger and bigger twin-cylinder engines to meet emissions rather than 4 cylinders. And while everybody and their dog is making parallel twins, they still have to share the market with V-twin engines. V-twins have often been associated with a kind of boastful, rugged character. Think back to the Harleys or Ducatis of yesteryear as well. Their 90-degree layout and inherently balanced firing order makes them a fantastic choice for a motorcycle engine, and that's why they've been around for well over 100 years. The Ducati Monster and the SV650, particularly in the kind of street sport category, were equally responsible for bringing about the V-twin engine flavor and character in the 1990s to street riders. Combine that with the big twin race bikes of early 2000s and late 90s world superbike, that big twin bikes were kind of all the rage back then. You had stuff like the SV1000 or the Ducati 1098. Big V-twin bikes were always the rage. Now, traditional V-twin engines in the American market were typically longer stroke Harley-Davidson engines that were air-cooled and usually not quite as powerful as their parallel twin or liquid-cooled V-twin counterparts. It becomes a little more difficult to build a super high-revving V-twin engine because of the vibrations that can occur and the balance of the engine just gets all out of whack. It's why for Ducati to compete with their twin-cylinder in World Superbike, they had to keep bumping up the displacement while 4-cylinder engines could retain their displacement because they could rev so much higher. Now, V-twins still excel in some cruiser markets, and brands like Ducati will still champion their L-twin platforms, but they are definitely being outshined by the parallel twins nowadays, and that's being seen by the amount of research, development, and supply that the market has for parallel twins. Again, it's kind of the crab of motorcycling engines.
Maybe you live under a rock, but this Aprilia RS457 is a giveaway bike on yammynoob.co. We're doing something a little different with this one. It's a super short sweepstakes, so you only have a few weeks to get entered to win this machine. Head over to the website and become a member for your best chance to win. You can also get a hat, a t-shirt, hoodie, anything you want, and every dollar you spend will be an entry to win. This is a really cool motorcycle. Any beginner sport bike rider would be happy with this machine, but it could also be an experienced rider's track day toy. Don't miss your chance for this bike to end up in your driveway. Head over to yammynoob.co.
Now, 4-cylinder engines have been the benchmark for performance sport-oriented motorcycles for years now. Their ability to rev super duper high and make tons of power at the top end basically makes it a perfect motorcycle engine for sporting applications. With each cylinder firing at 180 degrees of rotation, inline fours have a silky smooth power delivery. They thrive on high RPMs. You're never gonna hurt an inline 4 engine by revving it out. And their top end power is just simply unmatched by twins, which makes them preferred for racing, as I mentioned. But 4-cylinders definitely have their trade-offs. 4-cylinders are heavier, more complex, and more difficult to produce. Their peakiness is also a bit of a downside when you really just want low-end grunt to get off of stoplights and stop signs in everyday street-going conditions. Can't really ride a motorcycle at 16,000 RPM everywhere unless you're on a racetrack. High-revving 4-cylinder engines typically have a very short stroke as well, making it so that in order to access the power, you need to rev them out. That's why we often say that 600s and lower displacement inline 4 engines are gutless down low. Parallel twin engines have their displacement spread across just 2 cylinders, making that torque immediately accessible down low. And this power delivery is far more versatile and more useful for everyday riding. But parallel twin engines have evolved significantly over the last few years. Older parallel twin designs from back in the day suffered from a lot of vibration and lackluster power delivery. Japanese manufacturers started bringing back revised versions of the parallel twin engine in the 90s with small displacement versions of their homologated race bikes. Most notably, the Ninja 250 from the late 80s was one of the first parallel twin bikes to really make its way back in the market, and again, Honda's venerable Rebel 250 is also a parallel twin. Modern advancements refine the parallel twin, including improved fuel injection systems, lightweight materials, and advanced engine tech, making them more efficient, powerful, and smooth. The parallel twin engine design evolved even further with Yamaha's CP2 platform, the Crossplane 2, or the 270-degree crank. Yamaha has been playing around with this design since the 90s, and in my opinion, it really set the standard for liquid-cooled, fun, revvy, happy parallel twins that have this 270-degree crank. We've also seen manufacturers manufacturers like Suzuki introduced cross-balancer shafts to even further reduce the vibrations of a parallel twin. If you don't engineer these motors carefully, you get some strange rocking from side to side because of the inherent unbalance, but Suzuki's cross-balancer shaft really makes the whole thing really nice and smooth. Manufacturers like Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, KTM, and Aprilia have all leaned very heavily into the new parallel twin world. Now, Kawasaki, despite being an early adopter of the parallel twin, has been slow to revitalize their traditional 180-degree parallel twin with the 270. So all of the parallel twins they use in their current lineup are all the old school 180 crank, with the Ninja 500, 650, and Versys models all getting the somewhat antiquated 180-degree crank that doesn't make as much power as a 270. For example, the Ninja 650 and Aprilia RS660, both parallel twin class sport bikes, could not be more different in the way they produce power and access that power. Of course, there's lots of reasons why the Ninja 650 is heavier, the geometry is a little bit different, the frame is different, but ultimately it's down to Aprilia's very modern and high-performance parallel twin found in the RS660 that makes nearly 30 horsepower more than a Ninja 650 with just 10 more cubes of displacement. There are some question marks as to whether or not Kawasaki will actually introduce a 270-degree parallel twin, but since they just updated the Ninja 400 with the 500, just increasing the stroke of the engine a little bit and increasing the displacement, I think it's highly unlikely we're going to get a 270-degree crank parallel twin from Kawasaki. I think they're too busy supercharging motorcycles and making small bore inline fours and completing side quests to focus on the main mission. Heck, even the new CF Moto 450 SS has a 270-degree parallel twin, and the new RS 457 has that 270-degree parallel twin as well. I really wouldn't be surprised if KTM releases an RC 490 that uses a parallel twin with a 270 crank as well, given that they have experience building them the 790 and 890 platforms that are also parallel twins, even though they have camshaft problems. And Honda has a million parallel twin bikes in their lineup too. All of the Rebel motorcycles are all parallel twins of varying displacements. The 500 category as well from Honda are all parallel twins. The NC 750, the Trans Alp, and the new Hornet as well are all parallel twin engines. It's kind of insane when you think about how many motorcycles have this engine configuration. So parallel twins have really cemented themselves in the landscape as versatile, usable, and cheap motorcycles. I think it was difficult to swallow when Yamaha discontinued the R6 and made it only a race model, and they don't make the inline 4 in a middleweight displacement anymore, and they made the R7 with the MT-07's engine in it, but the fact is, it was a lot cheaper to buy than the R6, and that's getting more people on motorcycles, and that makes me happy. It used to be a bit of a unique sound to hear a parallel twin with a 270 crank in a sporty configuration, but nowadays it almost feels like the normal sound of motorcycling. When I'm out here riding my local roads, I pretty much always hear an MT-07 or a GSX 8R or something like that making that specific sound. And while they may not have the raw appeal of a V-twin or the high revving, screaming nature of an inline 4, the parallel twin has certainly found its place in motorcycling. As more and more riders move towards sensible, practical motorcycles, we're only going to see more and more parallel twin engines. In this new era, the parallel twin is really striking the balance between cost, charisma, and character, in our opinion. But what do you guys think about the parallel twin revolution? Is it something you have been championing for a long time? Is it something you want to see change in the near future? Do you really prefer your V-twins or your inline 4s? Or are you kind of a triple cylinder guy or gal? Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this parallel twin revolution, and thank you so much for checking out today's video. I really appreciate it. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later.
Well, you made it to the end of the video. And this RS 457, what's that? It wants me to tell you to keep watching Yami Noob. Click that video right over here and keep gathering all the motorcycle knowledge that you need to become the best rider you can possibly be. But it also wants me to tell you to go to yaminoob.co and get signed up to win this amazing motorcycle. So do that and keep watching the show.